So far, I found 3 different need-use docks. One is the standard switch dock, the switch 1 dock, and then the other 2 are the switch 2 docks. So let's start out with the first 2 docks, which I was able to update. These 2 docks are physically different and required 2 different firmwares to update them. So physically, the size is a little bit different. I'm gonna hold up to the camera. As we can see, one dock is shorter than the other, but they both have the same width. And another big difference is we're gonna use the USB-C port as kind of our identifier. If we put them up to the camera, you'll see that if we look at them with the HDMI port, the wide portion on top, the narrow portion on bottom, you'll see that one has the USB-C port on the right and one has the USB-C port on the left. So we're going to start out with the one with the USB-C port on the left, which is this one, the shorter dock. This requires the Gemdo Pattern 1 firmware. So let's move on to the need-use dock with the USB-C ports on the right. Again, make sure you're looking at it with the widest part of the HDMI port on the top, the narrow part on the bottom. This particular dock needs the Hagibus firmware to update it correctly. Now, I can't post or put this firmware up anywhere for anybody to download because honestly, I don't know the legalities behind that, but you can go to the Gemdo Mall website, just type in Gemdo Mall in Google and you'll get a link to that website. That will get you all the Gemdo hardware and the Hagibus hardware. I actually had to go and search around and I found a Reddit post that had a link to the Hagibus firmware. That's how I got it. So let's move on to the third dock, which is the dock that I bricked. If you look closely, you'll see that this dock has the USB-C port on the right. And it's pretty much identical to the dock that I just showed you, the one that I was able to flash. As I think I was switching docks so quickly when I was trying to originally figure out which firmware worked with all these, that somehow I got this to detect with the Gemdo software, which normally it won't. And when it detected it and tried to flash it, that's when it bricked it. If I would have used the Hagibus firmware on this dock to begin with, I think it would have updated it from switch 1 to switch 2 and I would have been good to go. I can't confirm that, but based on the fact that these are identical, and I found plenty of posts on Reddit that talked about updating switch 1 docks to work with the switch 2, I'm fairly certain that that's the case. Now again, if you're going to flash a switch 1 dock that is a need-use dock that looks exactly like this to try to update it to switch 2, you're doing it at your own risk. I cannot guarantee it's going to work, but one thing I can say is if you plug in any one of these docks and you run any of the firmware utilities, it normally won't recognize the dock if it can't upgrade it. So if you plug in the dock, fire up the firmware and the firmware does nothing in terms of Gemdo, or the Hagibus doesn't say dock detected, then you know that it's not going to flash it anyway and that you have the wrong firmware. So it's near impossible to brick a dock. I think the main reason I bricked the dock and the few people that I saw that did brick the docks did the same thing I did. They kept plugging, unplugging, and you did some crazy scenario that got that application to recognize the dock when it shouldn't have and then flashed it. But again, anytime you're flashing any firmware, I don't care if it's a dock, if it's an iPhone, if it's any device that the firmware can be flashed, you always risk bricking that device. That should close the book, I hope, on all this dock stuff. I'm sick of making dock videos. If you have any questions, put it in the comments and I'll revisit it and help you out the best I can. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.